The sea didn't sink this ship. The weather was fine, the water was sheltered, and she went over 1 kilometre from shore in 90 seconds. 193 people died because of a decision made in an office years before she ever left port.
The Herald of Free Enterprise was a roll-on, roll-off ferry. 8 decks, built in 1980 for the cross-channel run. And she was built for one thing above all else: speed of turnaround. That is the economic logic of a ro-ro. Trucks drive on at one end and off at the other. No cranes, no cargo handling, no delay. The faster you turn her around, the more crossings you make, and the more the route earns. Every design decision served that number. On the 6th of March, 1987, she was working a route she didn't normally run, Zeebrugge to Dover, with 80 crew, 459 passengers, and 131 vehicles aboard. Zeebrugge had a problem. Its loading ramp couldn't reach the Herald's upper vehicle deck. The fix was routine. Pump seawater into the bow ballast tanks, push her nose down, meet the ramp. So she sailed trimmed by the head, with less clearance between her bow doors and the water than she was designed to have. The man whose job was to close those doors had gone to his cabin during the turnaround and fallen asleep. He didn't hear the call for harbour stations. The officer responsible for seeing the doors shut left the vehicle deck for the bridge, assuming the work would be done. And on the bridge, the master could not see the bow doors. No camera, no indicator light, no way, from the one position where the decision to sail gets made, to know whether the front of his ship was open or closed. He assumed it was closed. That was the only thing available to him. She left the berth at 6:05 and passed the outer mole 19 minutes later. As she built speed, her bow wave rose, and in shallow water it rose higher still, because a moving hull sits deeper than a stationary one. Then the sea came through the doors. So, an open door, sheltered water, 1 kilometre from shore. Why is anybody dead? Because of what a ro-ro vehicle deck actually is. On a conventional ship, the hull is divided into watertight compartments by transverse bulkheads, walls. Flood one, and the water stays in it. That's the principle that governed the Costa Concordia. She was built to survive 2 flooded compartments. A ro-ro vehicle deck has none. It is one open space running the full length and the full breadth of the ship. It has to be because a truck has to drive from one end to the other without meeting a wall. The thing that makes the business model work is the removal of the thing that makes a ship survivable. Now put water on that deck. Water on a wide, undivided surface does not sit still. Tip the ship 1 degree and the water runs to the low side. That mass on the low side pulls her over further, which sends more water to the low side, which pulls her further still. This is the free surface effect, and it is not a gradual process. It is a runaway. Every degree of list makes the next degree easier. Roughly 2,000 tons of water went onto that deck in about 30 seconds. And 2,000 tons is a small fraction of what that ship weighed. It did not need to be a lot of water, it needed to be free to move. Naval architects have a number for how hard a ship resists tipping, the metacentric height. Free water on an undivided deck eats that margin directly, as though the ship's weight had been lifted upward toward the surface it's sloshing on. The Herald's didn't shrink, it was gone. Her stability didn't degrade, it collapsed. She listed 30 degrees, briefly came back, and then went over. upright to on her side in about 90 seconds. No time for a distress call, no time to launch a boat. The water reached the electrical systems and the ship went dark. And here is the detail that decides whether you find this disaster horrifying or merely tragic. She came to rest on a sandbank, half her hull still above the surface, in water shallow enough to run a rescue on. That is the only reason anyone survived at all. Not the design, not the procedure, a sandbank. The investigation found negligence on board that night, and it was right to. 3 men had a chance to catch this and didn't. But weigh that against what was available to them. A man asleep after a long shift, an officer who assumed a routine job was done, a master with no instrument telling him otherwise. A ship should not depend on 3 people never having a bad hour at once. Now go back. Years back, before that evening. In 1983, on a sister ship, the assistant bosun fell asleep and missed harbour stations. That vessel sailed with her doors open. Nobody died, and the lesson was available for free. The masters of the fleet had asked, repeatedly and in writing, for indicator lights on the bridge. A lamp telling the man conning the ship whether the doors were shut. The request was not simply declined, it was ridiculed in internal correspondence. Why spend money to confirm that staff had done their jobs?
In 1986, management endorsed a policy of sailing early out of Zeebrugge. An internal memo instructed staff to put pressure on the first officer if he wasn't moving fast enough. So on the night it mattered, no indicator light because it had been refused, time pressure because it had been ordered, and an undivided deck because that was the business. The formal investigation was led by Mr. Justice Sheen. It found negligence on board, and then it kept going, upward. Its most quoted conclusion was that the company, from top to bottom, was infected with what he called the disease of sloppiness. Indicator lights were fitted across the fleet almost immediately. The cost per ship was trivial. Here's what I keep coming back to. The lamp existed, the wiring existed, the request existed in writing from the people who would die if it was refused. Nothing had to be invented, and nothing had to be discovered. Somebody just had to sign it. Every accident report I read has a moment where the disaster was still cheap to prevent. This one has a date on it, and a memo, and a signature that never happened. If you want the next failure taken apart the same way, subscribe. Next time, a cargo ship that sailed directly into a hurricane. Not because her captain was reckless, but because the weather data on his bridge was already hours out of date when he read it.